Someone- And we're back. Rich, glad that you're here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tonight we're going to talk about the hidden waste inside municipalities. I'm with my good friend Rich Bello, who works for Schooley Mitchell, who's also the sponsor for tonight's episode. But I think we wanted to have this episode because a lot of talk right now is how municipalities and school boards are being crushed by tax increases, health insurance spikes, and if you aren't having an all out war on your equipment, vendor contracts, utilities, any way you can possibly save money, well, you probably should. And if you're going to engage on any type of audit, I think your company is the one to talk to. So I'm really excited to have you on. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do, and that'd be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Justin, for having me. Appreciate this. Yeah, Schoolie Mitchell, we're franchise based up in Ontario, Canada, but offices throughout the US and Canada, over 370 now. I'm based in Mercer County in Lawrence Township. And what we do is cost reduction analysis. We've been in business 25 years. We're the largest independent cost reduction firm in North America. We do the work that you were just talking about, Justin. On behalf of our clients, we go to their vendors and we talk about their pricing and the contracts that they have in place, and we try to get them lower.
So,
And
where would you say municipalities, in your experience, are spending the most money?
the one area that we've seen it a lot in terms of overspending, and it's oftentimes with any type of cost category, they don't always even know that they're overspending, but it's particularly for municipalities in telecom. So we're talking about their
Hmm.
phone lines, their wireless devices, their internet expenses. A lot of times, what we've seen happen is you have, obviously, with a municipality, especially larger ones, there's a lot of departments, there's a lot of buildings,
Yeah.
there's a lot of employees. More importantly, there's a lot of past employees that maybe when that person left, their phone wasn't turned off or the account wasn't canceled.
Wow.
And the municipality is continuing to pay for that expense. And unless there's someone that is really looking at the invoice, the statement from the vendor each month with a fine tooth comb, when you have hundreds of different lines, it's easy to overlook that stuff, and you just assume the bill is what it is, and you just go about your business and pay it. So
And I think that a lot of people, assume that it is what it is because there's this cardinal saying that I live by when it applies to how towns spend money, which is nobody spends their money as carefully as they spend their own.
right,
Excuse me, spends your money as carefully as they spend their own.
yep,
And that's where you see so much duplication, excess equipment, or in this instance, telecom, and nobody really notices because it's when you go to town hall and you get elected, it's kind of like you get sent and you're like this black box where nobody really knows what goes on there until they have a problem. Then they want to know, or they have to deal with the government. But a lot of people in New Jersey just shrug and throw up their hands and say that we can't reduce money, we can't save money, and you're probably one of the only firms that is really doing that. Explain how like your model works.
yeah.
If I'm a mayor or a councilman and I'm desperate to save money right now, how does that your model work?
Yeah, there's essentially three things that we're going to do for a client when we start an engagement. First thing is we're going to look at what they currently have, what they're spending on whatever service it is that we're looking at for them. And we have 15 different services that we consult to. So we determine what service it is they want us to look at. We're going to look at the bills, like I mentioned earlier, fine tooth comb. We're looking for any errors, any accounts that are expired that they shouldn't still be paying for. We're looking at the usage on each account. And especially with regards to the services that they're paying for, because sometimes what will happen is an account will be started with a vendor and it's set up in a way where sometimes there's a bundle of different services that are included, and the municipality or whatever company it is that we're working with may not have any use for those services. But at the beginning, when the account gets set up, the vendor will say, "Hey, we're throwing these in. You're getting a great deal, so this is awesome." And okay, that's fine. But then after a few months or a year goes by, then they're going to start paying for those services and they're never using them. So when we're doing our audits, we're looking at the service, the usage of each service to see, is this client optimized the way that they're currently set up? And if they're not, we're going to get those services removed that they're not using. So those are the first two parts of it. The third part, I think, is the most important part. I call it the secret sauce of Scully Mitchell. It's the database that we've built over the years, like I said, 25 years in business that we've been doing this. We know where these vendors are willing and able to go with their pricing because we've seen it for other clients. So if we start talking to another municipality and they're paying a certain rate for their phones, we know that that same vendor that they're working with is working with another municipality and they're charging them 20% cheaper. So we bring that to the table when we talk to the vendor and we say, look, we know you guys can go here. Let's play ball and let's do the right thing for these guys and bring that right price to the table.
So to summarize, what makes you unique is that you've built a moat around proprietary data on what is really the floor price that a vendor should really charge a municipality, and you can look at where a prospective one stands
Right.
in relation to where you really could get them. So if they're paying, let's say, Verizon, $15,000 a month, but a municipality of this size, they could really go down to 3,000. That's $12,000 a month. That's $144,000 a year. And in some towns, 144,000 is a road, is down payment on new equipment. So those are real impacts that you're having.
Yep, absolutely. And it's immediate. We'll go in, we'll do that analysis. Essentially, the next step is we present these results, our findings, to our client. We never enact anything without the client saying, yes, this is what we want to do. So we're just presenting the information, the analysis in a summary report that we provide. And then it's up to our client always to say, hey, we like this one or we like that one. Go ahead and let's implement that. So that's how it all works. There's no guarantee associated with working with our firm. It's all just us providing the analysis, and then it's up to our client to make a decision on what they want to do with it.
Well, I think this would be a good point to thank you for being tonight's sponsor. As you mentioned, Scully Mitchell is the largest independent cost reduction consulting firm in North America, with offices from coast to coast in the United States and Canada. On average, they reduce essential business service expenses by 28% and have delivered over $1 billion in documented savings to their clients to date. To get more information, you can contact Rich Bello at 609-791-9865. So I think it really is a no-brainer because we're entering unprecedented economic times where, if you remember 10 years ago, the norm for if a municipality was going to raise taxes, like they could not do, or a board of ed, school board, they couldn't do more than 2%. They were capped. Then one of the most disastrous decisions made by the previous administration, Governor Phil Murphy, was he eliminated the cap for municipalities and school boards, which is why now you're seeing 8, 9, 10, 11% tax increases. And my saying has been government will tax you as much as they can and then as much as they can get away with. But you really are you're kind of one of more of those rare vendors where you're not trying to get anybody to spend any more money. You're trying to actually give them money back.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would be somebody's reason why they wouldn't want to talk to you or have you come in and do an analysis?
I think the thing that I run into the most and the biggest hurdle that I come across in conversations with folks is they don't believe it. They
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
too
too
good to
good to
be
be
good to,
true.
right.
Exactly. So a lot of my business is founded
What do you
upon,
say to that? If I say, I don't believe you can do it, I think it's too good to be true.
yeah. So the response to that is always, well, let's take a look. I mean,
Mhm.
I have it right in the paperwork. This is exactly how it's going to
Give me
go.
your cell phone bill. Give me your car loan, you know?
Yeah, we'll just take a look.
Yeah.
You have no you're not committing to anything to have
Hmm.
us do this analysis. But the biggest part for me is building the relationships. I want to talk to people. I want them to get to know me and trust me as a person before doing anything from a business perspective, because that's how I found is the easiest way into having those conversations about business once they trust you as a person first before whatever the service is. And I've
Hmm.
taken that from my career before I was doing this also.
Right. And do you find that there's a lot of resistance from maybe the vendors who don't want to cooperate? If I'm a vendor, I'm probably going to take months to give you my bill. Like you
Right.
probably find a lot of people slow walking
Yeah,
cooperation.
that's certainly the case, and we have a great staff at the head office of Schoolie Mitchell that's their job. Like it's not me that's doing the negotiating on behalf of my clients. We have a team that focuses in each of the cost categories, so they know the ins and outs of every category. They know what the market is bearing, and they develop relationships with these vendors. So if that occasion presents itself, like you just described, where we're having a hard time getting in touch with whoever our client's contact was at any given vendor, we know who is above the ladder at that company that we could talk to and get a response from. And what we found over the years in terms of why that hasn't been as much of an issue, especially for the larger vendors, they realize the benefit of working with Schoolie Mitchell is that, hey, we may lose a little bit from this particular client, but chances are they're going to talk to us the next time they have a client to see if we could get a quote for that business. So
Mhm.
in the long run, we're going to get more business out of this by working with them as opposed to standing with a hard line in the sand just for one particular client.
In what areas are the specific categories that you focus on?
Yeah, so it's a varying list. So we've talked about the telecom.
Yeah.
Another one is garbage and recycling,
Hmm.
waste in general,
How does
disposal.
that work? If so, how do you deal with a situation where a town has it's currently privatized or they currently do it in house?
Mhm.
How does that work?
Yeah, if they're doing it in house and they're just paying for the expenses of running the vehicles,
Hmm.
then there's not a vendor that we're going to negotiate with. If they have a vendor, then of course that's a different story. We could talk to the vendor the same way we've just been discussing. The other thing, though, with if it's privatized and they have the trucks, they're probably going to be spending a lot on fuel because
Hmm.
they're going around the entire municipality. That's another area that we could help is fuel cards, or if they have a tank on site at one of their locations, we could get better supply rates for their gasoline. So
Hmm.
those are different ways that we could help on that particular aspect. We also look at payment processing, merchant services, so credit card fees. I know a lot of the times, at least in my township, they pass those on to the consumers. So if that's already in place, then that's not really an expense for the municipality. But if they are taking that on, we could go and get better rates for them, or create that system where they do pass it on to the consumer or the resident, I should say.
Hmm.
We look at those. We look at shipping. So whether we're talking about small package or courier shipping or less than truckload, larger pallet-based shipping, we do that. We do uniforms and linens, especially comes in play for restaurants or hospitals that are having their cloths laundered and delivered on a regular basis from a vendor. We do software as a service, which is a
So
very
you look at
broad,
all their SaaS agreements.
yeah.
Gotcha. But that's. I'm sorry. There's more? Are there more?
There are more, but
Wow.
we could talk about
Yeah.
that.
You could. I mean, we could talk about. But that's a lot.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, what would you say if I were to ask you, hey, how much on average do you save a municipality? Where do you usually fall?
Yeah, it's gonna, of course, depend on the
Hmm.
size
Yeah.
and the amount of volume that they're spending on different things. But we have examples of telecom savings of over $1 million
Mm.
for municipalities. Uh,
What's been like?
More base average, I'd say it's probably we're talking tens of thousands on
Mhm.
average. Um, and that could be across multiple categories. We could be talking about multiple different categories, or even sometimes just one category where we're going to hit that much just based on what the current deals were in place and how good or bad they were.
And how do you see AI impacting your business? Because, you know, some of the things that I'm seeing are, AI is going to be used to bring about massive efficiency, massive cost reduction. But would you be able to, do you foresee AI having an impact on your business or actually enhancing what you can do?
Yeah, I would say enhancing
Mm-hmm.
is probably the best way to put it. I mentioned to you earlier, we're having a Schoolie Mitchell franchise-wide webinar soon about the different tactics that they're going to be using at head office, implementing with AI. But we have we have proprietary software in place as it is to review these bills and these invoices. So the AI, like you just were mentioning, is only going to enhance that, I would assume. And then also, in regards to I still feel like there needs to be a human component to what we do because,
Mm-hmm.
like I mentioned earlier, we're negotiating
Yeah.
person to person. I mean,
Right.
until we get to the point where AI is doing the speaking on behalf of people and negotiating deals,
It,
which may
it,
not be too far away.
I know that's the scary thing where there is that social element to AI. Do
Hmm.
you ever talk to Grok or ChatGPT and you hear the voices are getting pretty
Oh,
good.
it's
They're pretty
scary.
scary. They are
It's
pretty
scary.
scary. And they're even getting to a point where they can imitate you. They can
Oh
imitate
yeah,
the likeness of
it's been
celebrities.
bad.
It is. But where I see it being very useful to municipalities and combining it with your secret sauce, right?
Mm,
Because AI is an application. What it doesn't have is it doesn't have your proprietary data.
right.
So, combining the two, I mean, you could probably in a very quick way look at a municipalities, all their agreements, analyze what they're paying for all of their different vendors and give them a pretty detailed analysis
Yeah,
rather quick.
yeah,
And I think, we're in a day and age where everybody is literally seeing how they can save money right now. The tax increases. Did you see Parsippany? We had a 8.5% tax hike.
did. I saw your episode
Oh,
last week.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, w- mun- people are not going to be able to continue to stay in New Jersey if local officials don't get serious about holding the line on taxes. And they need to arm themselves with the best people and best consultants that can help them deliver on affordability.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned it several times already in regards to tax hikes. What our service does is provide additional budget space that just essentially appears out of thin air. Like they didn't know that they were spending however much extra than what they needed to be spending, and poof, there's 20, 30, 40, $100,000 that could be used for whatever it is that taxes are needing to be raised for. And obviously, it's not going to make up everything, but it's going to at least um, lower the impact on the taxpayers.
What would you say beyond telecom? What are some normal items that municipalities are probably spending more than they should be?
Yeah, we talked before about the number of different buildings that are run by municipalities. One of the things that we look at, it's actually a couple different categories based on the specialties, but it's supplies. So we could be talking about paper products, we could be talking about soap, we could be talking about floor mats, or um, just office equipment like paper and ink and pens and all that stuff that, is usually purchased in bulk for large buildings. Those are contracts that we could look at and come in and find significant savings on and, um, you know, again, reduce that budget item.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, well, look, a town like Parsippany, we have many different footprints, real
Mm,
estate footprints. But there's many other towns too and cities that probably, dwarf us in
right.
size. But what would you say is what is the ideal municipality for someone like you? Like who would you say fits the bill for somebody that you think would benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get it a lot in terms of ideal clients. And what it always comes down to is not necessarily size. I mean, size, of course, has an impact on the volume of whatever services we're talking about that they're going to need. But it always comes down to what they're spending on any particular service. So we have a list of different thresholds just from, like we've mentioned, the years of doing this and the database of information. We know if a client is spending at a certain level, we're probably going to be able to find them some savings. And I have that conversation up front with my prospective clients before we do anything. It's like, okay, what are you spending in this area? We could probably find something, or you're a little low in that area, we might not be able to find something. So let's set proper expectations,
Hmm.
not lead people in the wrong direction or create unrealistic expectations. So it always comes down to that spend. I would say, unless you're talking about really the smallest of municipalities or townships or villages or what have you, there's probably going to be something that we could find because of the various services that municipalities have to provide.
Now, on a personal note, do you have a lot of friends and family members that ask you, "Hey, Rich, what should I be paying for this? What should I be paying?" Do you get that a lot?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when I'm talking to people, if I haven't spoken to them in a while and they don't really understand the way it works, they'll
Right.
say, "Oh, I wish
Am
you
I
could do
paying
this."
too much on
Yeah,
Netflix? Yeah.
exactly. They'll say, "I wish you could do this for me." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I wish I could do it for me too." But it's more based on organizations because that's, like I was just saying, that's where the volume is. We could all, if we want to check our own bank statements each week, we could see where we're spending on stuff that we don't really need.
Yeah.
And there's other apps out there that do that
Well,
on a personal level.
like, and you read these examples where like government spend, we buy two cars when one will do. We buy a new car every year when nothing's wrong with the
Mhm.
car from a year ago because it's not their money. And I think that we have to really change that attitude because the money that we send to town hall, for every dollar you send, I want to at least get $2 back in value.
Right.
Um, and I think your business really, as you said, it helps people, give them budget space, but it also, frees up the money that can go redirected towards more essential services.
100%.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and it was something that I saw, I sent the article to you
Hmm.
from the Princetonian, which is down close to me, which is probably why it came up in my Google feed. But
Hmm.
it was about just the rising costs of healthcare and the state plans, especially for public workers
Yeah.
at the municipality level or schools and all of that stuff. Healthcare, obviously, the costs are going up for various reasons, and it's something that has to be provided to these workers. It's not like you could just do away with healthcare,
Hmm.
but I feel like with our service and what you just mentioned about it creating that budget space, hopefully it allows municipalities to save that income, that revenue, the money in the coffers to go towards the healthcare to not need to raise taxes. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up about it is we have a new cost category essentially that we introduced at the end of last year that kind of deals with health insurance to a degree. It's the savings are found in your payroll taxes, so through
Hmm.
FICA taxes.
Hmm.
But the way that those savings are developed is through a preventative care insurance package. Essentially, it's a bolt-on package that it doesn't replace your major medical, but what it does is provide the services that are covered under like essential healthcare services. So your normal doctor's office visits, your testing, your prescriptions. It offers all those services at a $0 deductible and $0 copay to your
Hmm.
employees. and it's paid for out of the savings that it's generated through these payroll tax savings, because within the IRS code, they allow for, if you're enrolled in preventative care, a certain amount of your salary to be tax free. So you're saving on the taxes and that portion of your salary, which pays for this plan. And in the end of the day, it also lowers the claims that you're making on your major medical, which then hopefully prevents those high rate increases on your premiums
Yeah.
when it comes due the next year. So that's another service that we just introduced.
That's really exciting. Healthcare is that ball of wax. It's a huge ball of wax because and New Jersey's not doing any favors. It's forcing insurance providers to cover more claims, and when claims rise and the payouts rise, then the insurance premiums rise, and it's taxpayers that are getting hit.
Right.
And right now, the current rate that we're going, it's simply unsustainable. So we know what the problem is, but now how do we fix it? What are the difficult solutions that leaders need to implement? Whether it's reforms, it's cuts, it's change that needs to be done, because to get ourselves out of this, the hole that we're in, you need bold leaders that are going to lead with bold colors, not, rinky-dink pastels, because that's the financial situation most, local municipalities find themselves in. They're cash strapped, and they're stuck with these entitlements that hit them every single year. So, I think for anybody out there that's listening that really wants to arm themselves with, hey, what do we do? What's the best way we can save the taxpayers' money in a way that's risk-free? I really think you guys fit the bill.
Yeah, I like to think so. I always like to tell people when I'm trying to set up a meeting, it doesn't cost you anything to talk to me.
Just your time.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell people too, because that is important, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes more important than the money, but
Uh-huh.
20 minutes we could have a conversation, and I could explain everything that we do and how it works, and leave you with that information to stir over if you need to. But it's not like it takes a lot of time. And even if we get into a project where we're going to do an analysis for a municipality or any client, the time spent for the client throughout this whole process, from when we start to when we are getting them savings, it's less than 2 hours total. And that includes the time meeting with me, gathering any of the information that we need to do the analysis. It's very little investment of their time, no investment of their money, to see what's out there, which are generally going to be pretty significant savings.
Well, that's great. And we're coming up on the hour, so I want to read your sponsorship. So to again, thank Schooley Mitchell as being our sponsor for tonight's episode. And you can contact Rich Bello at 609-791-9865. I want to say I think that if anybody's listening out there and you're thinking, hey, am I overpaying? You're the guy to call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're going to figure it out one way or another.
Well, keep up the good work. Let me know where you go with AI. I'm excited to hear.
Yeah.
And, maybe we can have you back again.
Yeah, that would be great.
All
Thanks,
right.
Justin. I appreciate it.
You got it. Okay.